Michelle, it is a pleasure to have you on the show this evening. How are you? How's your 2023 been so far?
It's been really good. Thanks for having me, Dan. Yeah, it's been great. It's lovely to see some of the projects I've been working on finally come out after years of working on them, and lots more to come out in 2023, which is very exciting. So yeah, it's exciting so far.
How is it sitting on these games for so long, knowing these big projects and not being able to tell a soul?
It was hard. I mean, I had no previous experience kind of in voiceover work. I had just mainly been working in television and theatre. And then I think I'd done like maybe two or three audiobooks. And so really not much. And then auditioned for Final Fantasy and then got that. Didn't know what that was doing that for a year and then auditioned November 2020, I think. So right in the middle of lockdown for this game that I didn't know what it was. And we had to do a motion capture audition from my room in London, which at the time was like impossible. There was nowhere that I could do this. And they were like, there's going to be, we're going to be fighting this clown on this Ferris wheel. I was like, oh shit. So I was in my room, like with a tiny background behind
Yeah.
my wardrobe, trying to, and I didn't know what kind of game it was, and then it went on and it's live, and there's multiple game developers being like, okay, so we're on a Ferris wheel. So I'm like, as I know now, it's the scene with the clown,
Butcho the
and
Clown, I think his name is. Yeah.
yeah, and but I had no idea what it was, and then I got it. We went up to do motion capture in Nottingham in about April 2021. So it was all really in lockdown. And we did motion capture, which is the first scene. So that me falling out of the box in the first scene is me falling out of the box. And then also the people getting on the plane, we played multiple people in the motion capture. So I'm also other people on the plane. Um, which is great. I think there was like we were like they were like one, so like most of us were praying, we were doing stuff, and it was great crack. It was really good, but it was odd. I've never had to sit on projects for that long, and even there's three other projects I've got coming out later this year that I can't announce, and you're working on them for years, and you can't
More
use them as a
games.
credit.
More
Yeah,
games. Oh
I
my.
can't say,
Wow. Wow.
but it's lovely when you can finally say like I've been working on this for 2 to 3 to 4 years. I remember talking to Ben, who plays Clyde in Final Fantasy, and I'm like, dude, how long have you been doing this for? He was like, too long.
And so was that your first time doing motion capture on Dead Island 2?
It was my first time doing motion capture with the full suit. Um, I did a lot of facial motion capture for Final Fantasy, but no body. Um, and yeah, that was my first time doing anything like that, or even a motion capture audition. I've since done in-person motion capture auditions, and they're much different than the one that I did in my bedroom. Um, which I feel like if I had a recording of that, it would just be the most embarrassing thing. But
Got
it
you the
was yeah,
job.
I got the job, which is great. And it was really really nice actually to play just do my own voice in a video game. They really appreciate it, especially since it was an American game for American audiences. And that is kind of more unusual to have an actual Irish person in it.
What accent would you say you do the most in the roles that
Um,
you've played?
in the voiceover work, which has been quite nice, like I've done Irish quite a bit. I suppose it kind of it's a varying degrees of kind of Irishness. They want you to tone it down a little bit, or they do. I have several different Irish accents that I do. The one that I'm doing in Dead Island 2 is probably closest to my own voice, which was great that they were like, just do your own voice. The other ones depends on the games. The other ones you do the Irish accent that's quite like that. That's very smooth and kind of
Oh wow, that is
more kind of
smooth. Yeah.
fairy tale and things like that. And I've done American, did RP, so like very posh English, in one, and then kind of it also in another game that's coming out. I'm doing my character and then lots of additional voices. So I must play about 60 characters in it. So
Shit.
yeah, I was running
Wow.
out of actors at one point. At one point, I was like going to be just like slightly older English woman because I'm running out of stuff to do. But yeah, that was a kind of a mix now. It's not been nice because I do a lot of accents and I like to think that I'm good at them. But I know that once sometimes you come in with your Irish accent, they're like, "Oh, we just love you to use that."
I
But
bet
yeah,
I bet you haven't done an Aussie accent yet. That's the one
I
that's
can
escaping
I
you.
can do an Aussie accent. I feel like even when I was in drama school and we would do this thing where we would kind of do other accents and stuff, the Aussie accent, depending on where it's from as well, is like people could either do it or they couldn't. So
Yeah.
I think there was two random people in drama school who could randomly do a fantastic Aussie accent, and then nobody else. You couldn't teach it. So yeah, I know you're a big gamer. Have you? Is there lots of Aussie accents in games, or are you still waiting on the big character?
Not often, no. Well, there's a few here and there. I've done over 120 interviews with actors. I think two of them have been Australian, two or three, and they were all in
Okay.
Call of Duty. So Call of Duty's repping a lot of Aussies, but besides
Mhm.
that, they're a bit. We need a few more games. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
We're always the funny character. It seems like we're always the larrikin or the mischievous sort of character. I find there's just something
Yeah, well,
about.
I often find when I hear Irish characters in games that none of them are from Ireland at all. And in no way, I was like, this has gone through multiple people. Multiple people have listened to this and approved this in
And
huge
are
ways.
you thinking this is a bad accent when you're hearing it as well, or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dreadful, dreadful.
Wow. Yeah.
So recently, I did work on a game where I think I'm the only Irish character in the game, but they brought in like they had me. I was working with another voice, and I could tell it wasn't Irish, but it was so close, and it was really good. And I was like, "Where is he from? Where's this guy from?" And they were like, "Oh, he's from like Norfolk." And I was like, "He's fantastic. He's really good." And then they were like, "Let me play you other stuff that he's done on this game." And some people can just do it. They can
Yeah.
just do it really, really well, but not often. There's been a couple of games recently where I have a couple of friends who are big gamers, and they're just like, "Oh, I can't play this game. This character keeps coming into it with dreadful Irish accent." Um, but yeah,
So talk to us. How did your career begin? Because you grew up in Ireland, right? And then you moved
yeah,
to London.
yeah. I did a university course quite young. I went to university at 17 and then graduated from my BA in drama and Spanish at like 20. So kind of didn't know what to do really. And then I just told my parents I was going to immigrate because I didn't know what to do. So I went to
That's a big
London.
decision, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it was like I'm from a small town and there wasn't, I wanted to do acting and there just wasn't really anything going on.
Hmm.
And I didn't really know anyone in Dublin. So I'm from way down south. I'm from like southwest in Limerick. So kind of going to London was the same thing as going to Dublin for me. So my sister at the time was living over there. So I went and slept on her couch for 9 months, so I didn't have to pay rent, which is great.
Oh
Um,
wow. Yeah, that
and then
helps.
I know I waitressed for a while, tried to find myself, and then her friend who was kind of he's a kind of conductor, musical conductor. He was like, you should try drama school. You're not going to really be able to get in the room anywhere unless you have an agent, and it's very hard to get an agent. So I didn't really know what drama school was, and so I just auditioned for like three random schools. It was all I could afford to do, so I had about like 150 quid, and that I just auditioned for the amount that I could afford. And then I got into Bristol Old Vic theatre school, which is very prestigious, and I didn't know, and it's a really fantastic school. And they normally had like one Irish person per year, so I was the
Oh,
Irish
you were the
person.
quota, yeah, for that
I was the
year.
quota, yeah. And then graduated 2016,
Yep.
and basically moved back to London, and
Did
I've
you
been
land an
working.
agent straight away?
I did. I mean, God, it was. Oh, if you talk to other actors who are coming out, I think I got my agent on the last day of drama school, which, like, oh, it was. It was. I was a nervous wreck. I was like, I'm going to
Wow.
leave without an agent. And yeah, she's amazing. I'm with the Artist Partnership, and they're fantastic. And I'm with the the voiceover section of the Artist Partnership called Be Heard Voices, and
They're
they're
fantastic. They are fantastic. Yeah.
so good. And
Mm.
literally, I think in 2017 they were kind of not just starting out, but they were, it was kind of more like, oh, this is an acting agency and we're the voiceover part of it. And now there's so many people who are part of Be Heard Voices who are with other agents for acting. So I went to the Christmas party in December, and I was like, wow, they've just done so amazing. Selena and Heather, who are the voiceover department, have just done, yeah, they've been amazing. So yeah, I didn't start voiceover games until 2019, which turned out to be a lifesaver in the pandemic. Lifesaver, because I was working in theater and TV. TV shut down. The theater show that I was about to do just closed, and then I was out of work back home in Ireland, like with my parents.
And then you
And
land
then
these big AAA games.
yeah, but also I
Man,
didn't. I went in. I remember games auditions are really strange because
they're
I
secretive,
kind
aren't they? Yeah.
but they're very secretive. But also, I didn't know. Like, you don't know how many sessions you're going in for. You don't know how long. When I went in for Dead Island 2, I did like 4 hours, and then I was like, oh, is this it? And they were like, no, loads to do. And then once we did like, which took a long time to do all the cutscenes. We did all the cutscenes, and then at the end of the cutscenes, when they're flying away on the helicopter, I was like, "Guys, it's been amazing. Thanks so much." And they're like, "No, you have to do all the stuff where you're walking. You have to do all the emote sessions. You have to do all of the, like, when you're in game mode." And
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I really am not used to doing games. I'm so sorry. um, so it was like the job that kept on giving, like it was fantastic. And
How many
the engineers,
sessions did you end up doing? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, it could
Yeah.
be anywhere from like, God, like 50 to 60 to 70 hours. Like it was a
Damn.
lot. But yeah, I didn't know what emoting sessions were until I started to like watch some of the run throughs of the game, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to make sounds when I fight people.
And
So
how'd you
they
go with
were.
that? How did you go with turning into a zombie and going, ah, that
That
scene?
was that was so while I was doing like a big bulk of the emote sessions, which was like summer 2021, or like yeah, July or August 2021, I was right in the middle of doing Romeo and Juliet, and I was playing Tybalt, which is like the villain, and so we had a lot of sword fighting scenes and a lot of screaming, and my voice was destroyed. So I would go in from like 9 to 12 and do 4 hours of emoting and just screaming at Dead Island too, and then go in and do like the evening show. So
Sorry, I
then,
shouldn't laugh, but yeah.
oh, it was like, as in, I was, God, it was my own fault, because you're kind of like, yeah, that's amazing. I can do that.
Did you
Like,
sound like this at the end of the day?
at one point, because at one point, I was scared. I was like kind of listening to some of the cutscenes to see whether I could hear the sessions where I was really struggling.
Mm.
And it sounds okay. It sounds fine. And they overlay when I had to turn into the zombies, and the screamers, and when we did the electricity ones, they were tough. But the engineers, they're very good. The engineers are very good. And the vocal directors, they're often like, listen, we need you to do the screamers, but and stuff like that. But I'm gonna ask you for three of them, and I'm gonna ask you to do them in your own time, and then we're done. And you can stop at any point. Like if I wasn't up to it, I wouldn't say like, hey, I'm gonna destroy my voice. So they were very much like, and then sometimes I would call them and be like, listen, we've gotten to the end of the week where I've done so much on both stuff that I just need like 4 days to kind of um rejig my
Yeah.
voice. And they were
Yeah.
grand because
Yeah.
at the end of the day it's their game, I guess. So they want, yeah, but it's hard. I do know some actors who can just do it. There's a fantastic voiceover actor that I've worked with quite a bit called Harry Myers.
Harry
Um,
Myers.
He's fantastic. And he can do any accent. He can do any. If you ask him to make the character taller, he can do it in his voice, and I don't know how he can.
Wow,
If you
that's
ask,
cool. Yeah.
if you say like, okay, the character is actually 200 pounds heavier than that, he can make you like
Man,
hear that.
that's a skill. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think he's done a lot of. I'm not sure if it's Call of Duty or a lot of the war games. He does the additional voices. I remember we were chatting about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He can just scream for hours and hours and hours, and he's fine. And he's like smoking a cigarette. He's fine. Doesn't.
Oh, yes. I know Harry. He was in Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, he was a main
Yeah.
character.
So
Yeah, yeah,
some
yeah.
people can just you call them in because you know that their voice is just it's going to do it. It's going to do
Yeah,
everything. But yeah,
man. So what tricks do you have up your sleeve in the booth that you think put you ahead of everyone else? Besides
I
just being a good actor, which is the key, but
I from doing it now, what was because I suppose I went into the Final Fantasy audition blind. I didn't really know. I knew it was they were like, it's a fantasy game. I was like, okay. So and they were like, it's set in medieval times. So I kind of guess now I when I go into an audition or different things, I kind of know the style of something that they want. So sometimes, especially with well, I'm a woman, so I don't know the other side, but with female voices, sometimes I know the style kind of what they want. Even we did a lot of Final Fantasy. It was a lot more that kind of the kind of like more kind of Games of Thrones vibe of kind of everyone talks. It's very even when they're being very
prestigious or
jovial,
what's the
very
word?
prestigious.
Yeah.
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 And then in Dead Island, I knew straight away that all of it, they
Opposite.
just wanted they wanted like camp hijinks and then the other games that I've done, or even when I do voice demos for auditions, you kind of get a feel for what they want now. So I try to kind of match my vocal styles to that, and also like breathing. I realize that the way you do breaths or intakes of breaths or how you do it really can like help the voice, help the character. So it's hard to explain, but kind of instead of just saying the line, because if you were just like in Dead Island 2, you can't see our characters. You can just hear our voices. So anything more that we could give you to help you visualize the character's facial expressions is quite helpful. So, kind of like any intake of breath or anything like that, it just creates the world more. So yeah, working on it.
Are you ready to be in this gaming world? Are you caught up with this world that you're diving into?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my best friends, Dani, and he's a big gamer. And when I told him I could announce like Final Fantasy until he was like, um, so I'm ready. I would love to go to Comic Con. I would love to chat to people more about games. I really want to play this game. I don't have. I mean, I'm consoleless. I'm like I need to go to someone's house and play these games.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's
When's the
such
last time
a.
you played a game?
I don't want to tell you.
Come on.
I mean, I think I
Come
had
on.
like a PlayStation 2 and I played like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Crash Bandicoot and like
Oh, great games. Yeah.
Spiral the Dragon, which
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
So
just
you were
sitting
probably
there.
6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah, could be younger. But the thing is,
Oh,
so
okay.
with my friend Danny, I used to go over to his house all the time, and he would be playing like The Last of Us and um, Detroit and things like that. And I would just sit there with a glass of wine and just watch them like films because they were so great. So I'm much more into it now, and I see how much work goes into these games. Like you don't understand like how. I mean, none of us can understand how much work, especially since being there at the start, seeing the visuals. I remember seeing like some of the cutscenes in Dead Island at the very beginning, and I was like, oh wow, Emma Jaunt, like the actress that you meet at the very start. I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, they're going like V for Vendetta on her because she was bald, and I was like, oh, I was like, I love this. She was bald and like wearing a tank top, and I was like, this is
Uh,
fantastic. And then I was like, oh, everyone's bald. I don't understand. And then the zombies, sometimes they were just like stick men, and it's just insane. And I doing some scenes in other games where it's literally just stick people,
mm.
and then you see it years later, and you're like, there's been so much work put into this.
And
Yeah,
notoriously, hair physics are some of the tougher things to code
yeah.
for some reason because there's so many hair strands and the
Or my
wind and the
favorite
movement.
friend at the very start of some of the cutscenes, some of them have been completed, so you can talk to them, but some haven't. So they do a really helpful, unhelpful thing where they have a robot speak their voice. Uh, but the problem with Dead Island 2 was there was quite a lot of zombies in it. So you would be talking, and do you know that it's like it's the noise like wow, like that
Mm.
noise is
Yeah.
spelled for you. And so you're like, where are these zombies coming from? And then the computer screen is like, the computer like NG, 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 RR. So much so that you have to
Uh,
ask the engineer to just mute them because it's just, he was like, I'm really sorry. It just, the computer's just speaking all of their voices.
man. What do you think the biggest lesson you've learned about this sort of process has been doing all these games and voice acting? And what would you say what's the biggest takeaway for you?
I think uh, I, when I was growing up wanting to be an actor, I never even thought about voice work or games. Um, and the biggest lesson that I've taken away from it is it's such an amazing world. And I am a huge fan of podcasts and audiobooks, and I like inhale them. And now I inhale like audio series and things like that. And
I love that word, inhale them. Yeah, I'm going to use that.
I know, but like I just it's such an amazing world. And once I was finished, even like watching back cutscenes of things, I'm just like, this sometimes it's more enjoyable than even television and films. It's because you can it's like reading a really good book when you're younger and you stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning because you just can't stop. You need to finish it. And I feel like that about so many people who play games. Like it's like that beautiful thing when you're younger and you just have to finish the book. It's like you just have to
Yeah.
keep going on this adventure. And even by the end of it, by the end of playing with Dani and Final Fantasy and some of the other games that I just finished, you really feel like they're a part of you. They're like your friends. So it feels even more emotional to leave the characters behind. Um, and then, well, I mean, at the end of Dead Island 2, we don't know where they go. She didn't get on that helicopter. She's
Oh,
still there.
I think there's some more to be told there, more story. But then again, there's six
Oh,
of you.
it's not another 10 years.
There's six playable characters. So, like, if they do another game or DLCs, you got to record another six people and code it. And I know
Yep.
you have to time it, don't you? You have a certain
Yeah.
window for every line, so that would help them in doing it, I would
It
say.
does help them. I do remember that I think they had recorded Ryan before me, And so they would sometimes be like, this is kind of how much time you have, and they would play me Ryan's, and I'm like, yeah, but all Ryan says is like, whoa, but I'm saying like 17 things, like this fast speaking Irish person. And the
Yeah.
engineer was like, I think you can get it in. I think it might be. I'm like, why does Ryan get to just be like, whoa? And I have to be like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph on a cross.
Did you say? I can't remember
I,
that line.
I'm
Really?
See, I don't know if
They might
some
not have
of them
made it.
made it
Yeah.
in. I mean, some of them, like the research that they went into for the accent was fantastic. But there was some things that obviously, as an Irish person, I'm like, we should change this word. We should not put that in. We should. Hey, can I throw this in instead? Like
And
instead
they
of
were
saying,
flexible.
yeah, they were grand. And also, I know that the writer had the idea. She was just like, hey, there's no like romantic storylines in this, but she was just like, she was like, I don't know what Dani is. And like, as a gay woman, I'm like, let's force this character to be gay. So there's a point I think in the first scene when Emma Jaunt like bends down to put on her shoes. And I think like some of the male characters are like, whoa. And some of the female characters are like, I don't want to see this. And then the director was like, you can kind of do whatever you want. I guess if you're like, oh, put it away. And I'm like, no, must queer code this game. Must queer code Tisha's character at the end.
You got to make your mark. So you did,
Yeah.
yeah. And have you seen the YouTube video that someone uploaded that has all your voice lines in one video back to back? 2.5
No.
hours long. I'll have to link it to you. It's hilarious.
Oh my God.
It's got
Thank
all
you.
the
Like, yeah,
efforts. It's got every line back to back. It's crazy. So funny.
I think someone sent me something being just like, oh, I think there was a gameplay trailer and someone was like, oh, this Irish accent sounds really American-y and it sounds really fake. And I'm like, it's just me. It's just me. But yeah, no, I have to check it out. And then once there's also like other stuff that's come out about the other games that I have to sit on for a while. But once I can, then
Yeah.
I'll share those.
And also, I saw on your Instagram, it said self-proclaimed ginger ghost. What does that mean? Can you
I
give
mean,
me what does that actually entail? I know the
I
ginger part, but
yeah, I think I'm even trying like I'm sitting in front of a window and every now and again in this interview, literally you cannot see my face. It's just literally going like a ghost. So yeah, I am a ginger ghost. And I just put it in there. I mean, the amount of auditions I've gone for that it's like it just says like ghost like appearance.
it's your little niche, is it? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So you said you were inhaling some audiobooks and podcasts. Have you got any to
Mhm.
recommend everyone listening, myself?
I So at the moment, I'm listening to John Ronson's The Debutante, which is fantastic, very, very, very good. And I, um, at the moment, I'm trying to get into.
Trying to get
I'm
into.
I'm
Okay.
reading like I'd really like to read the Lord of the Rings audiobook. So I've just started the first one, which it's a journey, but I really want to kind of just get back into fantasy books. So I mean, I feel like most people have already read the Lord of the Rings, which I have, but I want to do it on audiobook. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to at the moment. Um, but yeah,
Okay. Okay. And there it is again. There's the sun coming through.
I
Everybody.
know. We have to do these at night.
Going back to Dead Island, I wanted to know what was your favorite scene? I know it's a generic question, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, what was the most fun you had in a
I
session, or what particular scene?
I I quite liked all the stuff. To be honest, my favorite scenes were because of the game developers. So my favorite scenes to do were when I just thought so the scenes where she's at the crab shack with all the guys
Yeah,
and like the guy gets his head cut off and then still smokes a cigarette, which made it into the trailer. I know I'm
I
being like,
know. Shit.
I was
Yeah.
so good. And all of
Yeah.
those voice actors the voice actors who played the guys in the crab shack and the voice actor who played like the older man, who
Mm.
you have to like find his alcohol, and also the gods and whiskey. Those scenes with the two um the band
Ah,
members.
the band. Yeah, 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 yeah. In
I think
Beverly
my favorite scene,
Hills. Yeah.
yeah, my favorite scenes were basically just because I could interact with these people. They were so good.
Yeah.
And the voices were fantastic. And some of them, I was like, these definitely have to be American people. And they weren't. It's good accents. A
UK?
lot of them, yeah, a lot of them weren't.
Yeah.
So
I think
fantastic.
a lot of the cast were from the UK.
I think so. I mean, I think most of us were recorded outside UK in London. So no, obviously, some people are American, but a lot of the additionals were, and even the NPC characters were recorded in London. So I
Mm.
mean, there's obviously a wealth of people living there. Um, but yeah,
So do you see yourself staying in London or moving to the States, or where do you going back to Ireland? Where do you see yourself?
I love Ireland, but I see myself kind of staying in the UK, kind of seeing whether I'll move out of London, just because work has gotten a little bit more hybrid, which is fantastic. It used to be when I started acting that it was like tomorrow you have to be in the middle of Soho at 9 a.m. for an audition, and you're like, Jesus. But now everything is online. Even I just finished a television series in at Christmas that all of the auditions for were all online. And then we filmed up in Coventry for like 4 months. So I didn't actually need to be in London. So thinking about maybe me and my girlfriend might move out of London, someplace a little bit quieter, and do a little bit of commuting. I can't see myself going over to the States because I
No.
think that my family will disown me if I go longer than an hour and a half flight home. But
Yeah.
I would love to visit more of the States, and maybe with these games I will be able to maybe go over and meet some of the people
Nice.
involved.
So do you have a home booth at all, or just a makeshift
Uh,
sort of booth?
I do not. I also recorded all of my first auditions for these massive games on my iPhone SE.
Damn. That's
Okay.
there you go. Wow.
I think
That,
I did the first Dead Island and Final Fantasy audition on this really bad phone that I will not update. So hey, sometimes you don't need a booth. Um, but yeah, I
wow.
will in the future try to invest in a little bit more. Over lockdown, I did have some stuff, but once they wanted you, I suppose when you're doing mocap and stuff like that, you just have to come in. So we shall see in the future if I'll invest.
And I know you love your cooking as well. What are you dishing up tonight for the parents? Are you in charge tonight or what?
Yeah, well, I love that. I'm sure it's much hotter where you are. In Ireland at the moment, it's cloudy and 16 degrees, so my parents want to have a barbecue. So, so we leave at about 6 o'clock. So I think we'll just do up some burgers and some lamb.
Yeah.
But apart from that, my partner is Brazilian, so I'm currently working my way through a huge Brazilian cookbook that I picked up there at Christmas. So it'll
Yeah.
yeah, the summer's coming, so it's definitely just going to be Brazilian barbecue, I
Is
think.
that all your food that I'm seeing on your
Yeah,
page?
yeah.
Man, you've got some skills. If this
Thank you
voice
very much.
acting thing doesn't work out, I mean, you know.
I mean, I think most of that came from like lockdown. So it was just me basically stuck in the middle of nowhere, like out of work.
Yeah.
Uh, before the games world saved me in my rent. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you discover about did you discover a love for it or
Yeah, I mean, like all of my family like to cook. We all do a lot of like home. My mom's fantastic at cooking, and so is my grandmother. And my sisters, one of my sisters, my oldest sister, is like she does lots of cooking stuff on Instagram. She's fantastic. Her name is Fox Nest Food. But we just loved cooking, and I think I always loved cooking and more finding different cuisines, especially when I got to London and I discovered my love for like Korean food. But yeah, I think the lockdown propelled it because there's nothing else to do unless become an alcoholic. So like you might as well just cook a beef Wellington instead and try to stay out of the dark side.
Yeah. Well, I was getting into cooking there, but I've fallen off again, sadly. So it's something I got to pick back up. But I'm really looking forward to these next projects. And Michelle, and again, congratulations on Dead Island 2 and Final Fantasy. I haven't yet to play Final Fantasy, but I can't wait. That comes out in a month or so, June something.
Yeah, yeah,
July,
yeah.
June or
And
July, yeah.
I think I've got two other games coming out at the same time. So I hopefully will know when I can announce those. And then one that's a little bit far off, but is a very exciting one. Next the end of again, I don't know. I talk to the game developers and I'm like, when is this coming out? And they're like, at some point when I'm alive. So
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say to the fans of Dead Island 2 or
I just thank you for sticking with the game because I know that there was a lot of broken hearts after the first one and after like 10 years. When I did my research after I got Dead Island 2, I was like, oh my God, this game has a lot of history.
Mm.
A lot of people saying like I pre-ordered Dead Island 2 and I didn't when I was single and now I've got a wife and three kids. So I'm really glad that people stuck
Oh.
because it's it's beautiful and it's really fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Mm.
You know, a lot of games do. It's just a good
It's just
zombie killing
fun.
game. Just
Yeah.
fun, yeah.
It
Eat a bit of
knows what it
crap.
wants to be and it does it well. And have you seen the gore system, what they've put in? You should see it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, God, I mean, when I was watching some of the cutscenes early on and that wasn't there, I was like, this looks good. And then when I saw the trailers, I was like, this is fantastic. Like, really, they've done super work. And I think
Mm.
that coming off the back of people being like, oh, will this be a flop? Because everyone has been telling us that it's going to be. And I think that they really proved people wrong. I think it's really, really good crack. And I think there's a lot of heart to it as well, but without taking itself too seriously. So I think that they fixed some of the stuff kind of that people were worried about. So yeah, hats off to them.
Awesome. I look forward to talking to you again, Michelle. Is there so you've got Instagram, anything else that you wanted to plug?
No, I've got a series coming out this October in the UK on ITV called Three Little Birds, which is about the Windrush era. It's written by Lenny Henry, and it's a six-parter. I
Ooh.
think it comes to Ireland at a later date, but and hopefully maybe internationally at some point. But it's set in the 1950s about three Caribbean women who come over to London, and about the trials and tribulations of that. So
Who do you play in that? Are you a nasty? Are you a goodie?
I'm one of the only goodies, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I play can't reveal too much. I play a character
Okay.
that's kind of
Yeah.
involved with one of them. So it has a lot of heart, and I think people will really like it.
Beautiful. Awesome. Before I let you go, can Danny say anything to Dan? Is that possible?
um, my favorite line is a line that my father says, and I'm really glad they put in. And it's the Irish version of "How are you?" and it's "How's she cutting?" which is my favorite line. Which is "How's she cutting" is a farmer's way of saying how is the ploughing going in your field. And they allowed me to keep that into the game, and they put it in like Danny's introduction trailer, which is excellent.
How's it cutting? That's right.
How's she? How's
How's
she
she
cutting?
cutting?
How's she cutting?
Yeah, okay, cool. Love it. Well, thank you, Michelle.